Hello and welcome back to Just My Opinion Man. It's been a while. It's been over 3 weeks since we last recorded and put out a video, and I could offer a lot of excuses why we haven't been consistent in putting out videos in a few weeks. But the bottom line is just procrastination and laziness. I'm the first to admit it, but lots of inaction in the past few weeks. But had to come out with something new, and something happened last night. Something happened in the world of football last night that I just really wanted to talk about in this video. And Diego Maradona sadly passed away last night. And this entire morning, I've just been spending it on a field trip, on a long throwback and a field trip of his life and his career. Because what a character, right? Like what a legend, an icon, a titan. I mean, तुम उसके लिए कोई भी adjective use कर लो, it's not going to capture the true essence of Maradona. Because this person, this persona, this man was someone who was not only did he have a larger than life personality, he was like this man, you can say, was bigger than football in his prime, and even after his career finished, like his stories were somehow like just a little bit bigger than football. And that's a term that you do not use for footballers, because obviously no player, no club is bigger than the game itself. But we just have never before, never since, we've just never seen a character like Diego Maradona ever before. I mean, you have these personalities in all walks of life, right? You see politics, you see people like जिनका cult of personality होता है. You hear of people like Castro, and even in sports, even in other sports, you hear of Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, Sachin Tendulkar. ये सारे जो लोग होते हैं, you can say like they have that persona which sets them apart from the rest of the field. And no matter how many brilliant players you ever come across in your life, they'll never be a Maradona, because skill in football, that's not the only thing that I'm talking about. Like just his character, just what he stood for, just his stories were huge, right? Huge. And you might find it a bit weird, like why do I have this huge smile on my face when I'm talking about Maradona the day after his death? But for me, I mean, for me, this is just an opportunity to celebrate his life, his career, and what he stood for, and what he meant to so many people. And obviously, it's a sad moment that he's no longer in this world and he has passed away. But like, you cannot really say that that was a surprise, because just the way, just the wild nature, and just the wild way that he used to live his life, it did not come as a surprise to anyone. Like the man had several near-death experiences before. He talked about this one incident publicly, where in 2001 he nearly died because of a cocaine overdose, and the only thing that kept him alive was his love for his daughter. So he had a troubled past. He had lots of health issues and all of that, where his career spiraled out of control because of that, and his life too in many ways. But for me, I just view this as an opportunity to celebrate Diego Maradona. And you could say in some ways, like, this is my tribute to the legend. Obviously, the world of football has been sending their tributes to him. Last night's Champions League matches, instantly, like just a few hours after his death, they had a moment of silence for his life, to celebrate his life, to pay their respects to him. This morning, I heard that Napoli is going to change their name of the stadium, and name it after Diego Maradona. Obviously, he was the biggest legend the club ever had. And yeah, just a huge personality. But for me, I'll just use this video to sort of share my favorite Diego Maradona memories. So Maradona, actually inherited heart conditions from his father. And in spite of that, the man, he was just such a gifted footballer. But in spite of that, the man experimented. He obviously liked his Colombian marching powder, and he experimented with cocaine in his early 20s. So he was born in 1960, and soon after he moved to Napoli. He had lots of he used to have the typical the kind of lifestyle you associate with Latin American footballers, and they just really like to party, celebrate their life. Obviously, you're a gifted footballer, you dedicate your life to your career. But for them, the philosophy is that, like, if you're not enjoying your life, then what is all of this worth? So Maradona obviously was a character who used to love his parties, used to love his alcohol. He has been with several women throughout his career, throughout his life. I mean, so he obviously liked that side of life, but indulged too much into it. So much so that, when he was playing for Napoli, regularly like winning football matches for them single-handedly, but he was connected with the Italian mob in Naples. And I mean, for this, all of this, no, like all of this I saw last year in a documentary, जो आसिफ कपाड़िया की documentary आई थी Diego Maradona पे. I highly recommend it. Just watch it, because a lot of the things and a lot of the memories that I have of Diego Maradona, I'm actually picking out of that documentary, because I just saw it like in a theater last year. It was a brilliantly made film, and it gives you a great look into and an insight into what his life was like. And I would highly recommend watching that film wherever you can get a hold of it. But Diego, yeah, so I mean, his career, he had this heart condition, so it was natural that, a football career was going to be tougher for him than most people. But he was obviously a very gifted footballer. I don't know much about his career in his early days. I know that he used to play for Newell's Old Boys, then moved to Boca Juniors. I remember he won one league title in Argentina, and soon that was in his last season, and then he moved to Barcelona for a world record fee. And from there on, like, I have a few memories of what his career then went like. And so when he moved to Barcelona, he spent only 2 seasons at Barcelona, and they weren't very memorable seasons. Like, he was signed for, there was a lot of fanfare about him and a lot of expectations from him. But his two seasons in Barcelona were ravaged by a lot of injuries. He only played like 58 games for them, but he had 38 goals in them. Like, just to tell you what a crazy stat that is, because in today's day and age, we're used to hearing stats from the Henry, Shevchenko, then we moved to Kaká, Cristiano Messi to just change the game. But numbers जो ये ना comprehend एक अलग sense में करो, क्योंकि 38 goals in 58 games for Barcelona in from 1982 to 1984, this was just unheard of in football before. Like, I mean, like, Gerd Muller was a goal machine. He used to score goals left, right and center. But Maradona played further behind, right? Like, he wasn't a conventional number 9 striker. So for him to get that many goals from the number 10 position from further behind was just unheard of ever before. And like, his most memorable game in his Barcelona career was the final match, the last match he played for Barca, which was against Bilbao. So this game was played at the Santiago Bernabeu. This was the Copa del Rey final of the 1983-84 season. 22 साल का Maradona, the star of the match, playing in front of जो Spanish मतलब monarchy है अभी भी I think Spain, तो मतलब playing in front of the king of Spain, and in 100,000, like, आज भी नहीं है Santiago Bernabeu की इतनी capacity, तो I don't know उस time पे इतने लोग कैसे आ गए थे, but playing in front of 100,000 people against Bilbao in the Copa del Rey final, and this happened, like, मतलब full power दंगे. So Barcelona lost that match. That was unfortunate. But Maradona was, abused by the Basque population, by the crowd throughout the match. Like, xenophobic chants towards him. They made fun of his stature, like he was short and stout kind of. So they made fun of him, racist insults, all of that he was facing throughout the match. And then he had an exchange with one of the Bilbao players who hurled some racist insults at him, and Maradona after the game just like exploded. So this brawl then happened, which was iconic. Like, you just see that in videos, just think like nothing like this can ever happen in modern football. It just does not happen. The closest we've come to it is Suarez biting someone, but like, we've just never seen the likes of that ever, and such a high profile player. Like, imagine ऐसी चीजें football में भी शायद होती रहती हैं, but imagine like the world's best player, the biggest player in the world, involved in this. So that brought an end to his Barcelona career. But then like he moved to Barcelona for a world record fee, and then was sold by Barcelona for another world record fee to Napoli. And this transfer, like, just to like highlight the times, this transfer like was so like inexplicable, because like people could not even think of this. Even at the time, Barcelona Real Madrid rivalry obviously existed even then, and players seldom moved from one club to the other. So like, Real Madrid transfer was not on the cards. But at the time, like, the biggest giants in football, the biggest clubs in football, Juventus, AC Milan, Inter Milan, all existed in Italy. But Italy में Napoli भी थी, and Napoli is in in southern Italy. My geography is not the best, but I believe it's in southern Italy, and it was one of the most impoverished areas of Italy. So I'm just going to read this quote on the screen for a bit, because Naples एक जगह थी जहाँ पे मतलब basic sanitation नहीं, मतलब it was this very very impoverished, मतलब even ignored by, I think, the Italian government. The mob used to run things in South Italy. And I'll just read this quote because it's one of my favorite quotes, which was written in a newspaper at the Times after he was announced as a Napoli player. So Napoli signing him for a world record fee in a very very poor city just was news that went viral at the time. And I love this quote from the time. I'm just going to read this from a screen. A local newspaper stated that despite the lack of a mayor, houses, schools, buses, employment, and basic sanitation, none of this mattered because the city had Maradona. Like, imagine one person having such an impact. It's unheard of, it's insane, it's crazy. And there was a lot of, so this Asif Kapadia documentary that I was talking about, like, just watch it because it highlights how even so much, like, Italy was so divided at the time between North Italy, where all the big clubs, the Juves, Milans of the world existed, and Napoli, where like southern Italy, no club in southern Italy had ever won a league title before. I don't think they've won one since, because Napoli remains the only, like, those two league titles that Maradona won for Napoli remain to this day the only league titles they have ever won. So no doubt he's the biggest legend the club has ever seen. But it was at a time when, there was a lot of disdain towards southern Italians from the rest of Italy as well. So people used to hate Napoli. And at the time, like, they were downtrodden to bolna pata nahi sahi hoga ki nahi, but they were abused. They were discriminated against socially and economically in many, many ways. And so when Napoli in 1986, 86, 87, they won their first league title. So when that happened, like, it transformed football. मतलब तुम आज की football में सोचो, if if a Messi at his peak moves from Barcelona and comes to the Premier League and plays for, like, I mean, ऐसे social discrimination का मैं तो कोई example भी नहीं दे सकता, but if we imagine him coming to a club like, say, like a Southampton or an Everton or something, and just transforming them to such an extent that they win 2 league titles on the bounce. Like, insane achievement. Absolutely insane achievement. But his life in Napoli was also, it came with a lot of like baggages, because he grew very, very close to the mob at the time. And that's when he had his episodes with drugs and stuff. But like, I mean, they didn't take away from his football. The man liked to party, but they never took away from his football. Most people, their Maradona memories are centered around his Argentina career. And of course, you don't need an explanation for that, because he had his biggest successes with Argentina in the World Cup. And like, at the time, the World Cup also had this special significance, right? Because it still does, there's no doubt about it. But at the time, like, the World Cup was the one and the only global competition. Like, in this day and age, you have the Champions League, where the best players in the world still participate for their clubs, and it's like this, it's the grand stage of club football in this day and age. And you can make an argument that that's where the best footballers in the world all coexist, and that's where they compete against each other. But at the time, there was only the World Cup. The World Cup was the only platform which came along every 4 years, where the best in the world got together. So to this day, that's why you hear the argument that if Messi never wins the World Cup, he'll never surpass Maradona, because the World Cup is, of course, the biggest stage, and that's where Maradona had his biggest successes. He was still too young to be a part of the 78 Argentina squad, which won their first ever World Cup. But he was only 18 at the time. But he played his first World Cup in 82 in Spain, where the Spanish public was really excited to watch him play. He had just signed for Barcelona at the time, and that was his first, the world record fee for a player. 22-year-old Maradona at the big stage for Argentina didn't live up to his full expectations at the time, because he was still 22, and they went out, I think, to Brazil. Maradona, in fact, got a red card in the last game of the cup for Argentina. They lost 3-0 to Brazil. But the 86 World Cup was obviously his grand stage. So 86 World Cup, a 26-year-old Maradona, you can say at the peak of his powers, Maradona at the peak of his powers, and a lot of people draw comparisons. A lot of people draw comparisons between what Garincha did for Brazil in the 62 World Cup and what Maradona did for Argentina in the 86 World Cup, because and I don't know if like the light is properly visible, but you can see a poster there on the back. I have all the World Cup heroes, and just a postcard I got of all World Cup heroes. So there's both Garincha and Maradona on there, among some other world football legends, some other World Cup legends. But yeah, this comparison between Garincha and Maradona was because these two people are said to be the only two people whom you can say, not even Pele has this recognition, by the way, but these two people seem to have the only recognition that they were men who single-handedly led their country to winning the World Cup. I mean, obviously football एक team sport है, but we all know यार ये special characters exist करते हैं. Garincha was still, much older, so I don't know as many stories about him, but Maradona, so obviously you can find his performances on any highlight reel. You can find the cultural impact of Maradona on that Argentinian 86 World Cup side. You can hear it from any of the past legends of the game. Everyone says the same thing, that Maradona kind of single-handedly led Argentina to the cup. Obviously those memorable goals against England and all, like those are very common shared Maradona memories which everyone knows about. So I'm not going to delve too much into them because they're really public knowledge. But the biggest memories I have of Maradona are some of the more obscure memories. So I remember, like, obviously I think a lot of people would have seen the Live is Life warm up. Is that something that you have seen? I mean, for me, I will never forget it, because so this came on an occasion 1989 है, UEFA Cup semi-final. So at the time Champions League ना इतना बड़ा नहीं होता था क्योंकि participation इतनी बड़ी नहीं होती थी. The second tier was almost kind of just as big, and like obviously the European Cup was the biggest cup to win. There's no doubt about that. But the UEFA Cup was also like a huge like the difference between Champions League and Europa League जो आज exist करता है इतना वो नहीं था. I would say somehow like just my calculation इतना कुछ ऐसी random, but like UEFA Cup was kind of like not at the very level, but a huge competition. So why I'm going on blabbering about this is because Napoli, the small club, never won the trophy before, never won a European trophy before, is playing Bayern Munich in the UEFA Cup semi-final. And you would think यार मतलब nerves, pressure, ऐसे सबसे बड़ा player है उनका Napoli का, world का सबसे बड़ा player है Maradona, pressure to do something against Bayern, European giants. और फिर तुम मैच का वार्म अप देखते हो एंड इट बिकेम आइकॉनिक. मैराडोना जस्ट ग्रूविंग, just watch this and enjoy this. I mean, Maradona just grooving to Live is Life and him just warming, I mean ऐसे boots not tied, laces not tied, just dancing with the ball, man. Like, I'm gonna shut up, just like watch this and enjoy this for a second because this is just iconic. इस बढ़िया वार्म अप के बाद फिर Napoli beat Bayern in the semi-final. So on they won the UEFA Cup that year, which was a major achievement for them. I think to this date the only European trophy Napoli have won. On road to winning the UEFA Cup, सारे matches तब 2 legs होती थी. Even the final was played over 2 legs. On road to winning the UEFA Cup, they beat giants like Juventus and Bayern. Maradona even scored in the final against Stuttgart in the first leg, and so just a big achievement for them. And then there was this other case. So this was this again, like at the time in Italian football, AC Milan were the biggest giants, right? Arrigo Sacchi's Milan introducing a style of play that Italy had never seen before. So वो मतलब ऐसे Cruyff और Rinus Michels का भक्त था. He was inspired by total football, and AC Milan were playing a brand of high pressing, high line, aggressive attacking football, which Italian football had never quite seen before. So what they, and that Milan side, their defensive output was characterized by they used to employ the high defensive line with aggressive active pressure on the ball. What happened, why this was so important was because at the time no club actively tried to play an offside trap. No one really tried to, tab man marking chalti thi, so no one really tried to play the offensive line offside at the time, and that Milan side famously used to do that. So what happened was, and no one could break it, no one, like ये नई tactic एक football में आई थी which no one has seen before, and everyone is bewildered by it. सब confused है कि हो क्या रहा है, ये offside trap क्या चीज़ होती है, इसको conquer कैसे करते हैं. तो मतलब ये अब चीज़ें बहुत ही elementary लगेंगी कि ऐसे कैसे how you have to time a run to beat the offside trap, but मतलब at the time all of these things, all of these inventions, tactical inventions were just new on the scene, so people were kind of like still figuring their way out. And then just watch this clip. So Maradona playing against Napoli in this game in I think 1989 only, Napoli versus AC Milan game. So again, like you can clearly see how like Milan used to play their opponents offside. So just carefully watch this clip and watch how Maradona, who is the main ऐसे उनका creative input है Napoli का, watch how deep he is playing. मतलब you would almost think कि वो defensive phase में contribute करने के लिए ready है, इतना पीछे खेल रहा है वो. So just the moment, like right this second when there is pressure on the ball, so Napoli ने मतलब क्या कहते हैं, strung a few passes together, drew the Milan defense out wide, and the moment they play the ball back, they notice that there is active pressure. There's active pressure on the ball. Milan defenders, they all collectively they rush out together and try to maintain a line. So what happens then is just this beautiful, मतलब Maradona ने सोचा ये कि he'll start his run deep. So he'll just play a quick lofted ball over the back line, and Maradona is now clean through and goal. And just look at that finish too. Just look at that headed finish. I mean, beautiful. Just these little memories that you have of Maradona. I mean, just an iconic guy. In 1984, this I read just this morning, but in 1984, soon after he moved to Napoli, he got news of a sick kid, of a child who had fallen ill, and he talked to FIFA and he talked to Napoli of wanting to arrange a friendly match for the benefit, like a charity match for the benefit of the child. FIFA and Napoli both refused. So what this legend goes on to do is he arranges a friendly match, a 12v12 friendly match on a big football field. I don't know who it was with, but Maradona was playing, and that was the big deal, right? Maradona is playing a friendly match in front of this sick child's house, and 4,000 spectators, 4,000 spectators attended the match. So I mean, just these are things that iconic memories of the guy. And his career had a sad end, the positive doping test in the 94 World Cup, after which he was sent home. Even before going home though, he had that iconic goal against Greece, and that celebration, that mad passion just bursting through his face. Pagal insan, वो देखना. But even after his career finished, the iconic moments weren't over, because you've seen him, like I remember the 2006 World Cup, then the 14, and then of course the 18 World Cup, where Maradona was in the stands always cheering Argentina on, and his hysterics were there to be seen. So that happened. Then of course, like he was very outspoken, a very opinionated man, and spoke about his love and admiration for Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, throughout his life. He's a 20th century socialist, spoke very, in a very erudite manner too, about his love for his nation and his love for his people. So he came from a very backward, like a very backward, downtrodden society in childhood, came from a very poor background and spoke for his community throughout his life. In 2004, just look at him standing beside Hugo Chavez in this anti-imperialist protest against the USA in 2004. Iconic cheezein. He, I think, famously also had a talk show where Fidel Castro was a guest. Just imagine, like, being friends with a personality like Fidel Castro. यार ये कौन से फुटबॉलर्स होते हैं आज की दुनिया में? ऐसा कोई भी नहीं है किसी भी स्पोर्ट में. And this is the kind of personality which, when you fall short of adjectives, this is the kind of personality you would term God. जो Sachin Tendulkar है for so many crores of Indians, where, just obviously sporting skill is one thing, but there's the character of the man that, that elevates him from so many other sports icons. And he will just sorely be missed. I mean, मतलब इसका तुम career देखो, some things that aren't even heard of. Like in his last years, he was living in the UAE. So kind of like a paradox. A man who is a socialist and has spoken of like social causes throughout his life, accepting oil money in his last years, but lived in UAE in the last years of his life. In 2017, he was managing a club called Fujairah, and in the second division of the UAE National League, manages them throughout the year, then quits the job. So they didn't get automatic qualification to the first division, they didn't win the league, but they came, I think, second or third or something. He quits the job, so in the last match of the season, they just need to win that game to get automatic qualification. So they don't lose it, but they draw it. Then what happens is they get into a playoff with some other team, and the guy just quits his job. मेरे को नहीं पता क्यों किया ये सब, उसका background क्या था, I have no idea. But like that's just the kind of person he was. And for some reason, in India, Bengalis really love Maradona. I mean, I still don't know इसका explanation क्या है. And I mean, obviously, if you're a lover of football and if you're not a fan of the 80s England team and all of that, I mean, those are the only people in football who hate Maradona, right? But if you're a lover of football, you obviously love Maradona. So it's not like I'm trying to appropriate the king of kings for Bengalis. But there is something, because even my mother, she's not a huge football fan, but even she tells me of stories where, growing up, she used to hear the 82-86 World Cup ki commentary radio pe. And even like when I talk to some of my relatives who live in Bengal, like they just love Maradona to a next level, to a next degree, almost as if he is a national hero for Indians themselves. And I mean, Maradona has come to Kolkata a couple of times. So he came to Calcutta in 2008, where he was received by over 15,000 people at the airport itself. So he was there for some function, and at the speech he said, like, I mean, this reception comes only second to the reception he received at Naples in Napoli. I mean, imagine that. Maradona, a figure who is loved throughout the world, gets so much love in Calcutta and Bengal. And I don't know what the reason for that is. Football, I mean, Bengali people, you just genetically also have this love for football. But for Argentina and to this day, आज भी कोई World Cup वगैरह होता है, Bengalis and people all over Bengal, Calcutta, everywhere, they support Argentina because of Maradona. And he came back to Calcutta in 2017, where a statue of him was unveiled. Saurav Ganguly था उस function में. He was scheduled to play a friendly match, but he had become like, काफ़ी गर्मी थी तो भाई साहब खेल नहीं पाए थे. बट लाइक जस्ट इमेजिन, ये कितनी कैसे कूल स्टोरी है. Like some corner part of the world where like India has never qualified for the World Cup, but like the country loves Maradona. There's a statue of him in Kolkata. And even, like whenever I've like been to, so I'm a Bengali, whenever I've been to Bengal or whenever I've played football anywhere with like, older, थोड़े से older people, तुम कुछ भी ऐसे एक अच्छी सी move कर दो और कोई skill कर दो, everyone, labels you Maradona. Like our generation will be, right? Like just imagine our generation when we're like 40-50 years old, if we ever step onto a football pitch और कोई बच्चा ऐसे आके कोई ऐसे stylistically कोई ऐसे skill कर दे, so you'll think of Neymar, or like he does a body feint and moves, you'll think of, the iconic like Cristiano, Messi, वो सब, वो Maradona to this day है for people in Bengal. I have no explanation for it, but I just think it's really, really cool. And like obviously Maradona belongs to the whole world of football. and he will surely be sorely missed. And it's just, amazing. So just crazy madness, but it is what it is. So yeah, rest in peace, Diego Maradona. You will be missed by football. So guys, thank you for watching this video. I mean, just if you liked what you heard, share this with your friends and subscribe to the YouTube and the Instagram page if you haven't already. And watch out for more, because these videos are going to be more frequent from now on. So thank you.